Come forward, children. Come forward and meet the newest addition to our family. Let me introduce you to Lorenzo. He comes from South America. Born with an oversized head and an underdeveloped body, he was abandoned by his parents, put on display in cheap backroom exhibitions. He also possesses one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. Would you, Lorenzo?
Dai campi, dai prate, che non dalla notte.
Perfect.
It was not good sync, but that'll do.
As long as I can find the clap, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Great. Well, in that case. Welcome to Split Picks October Horror Edition. Your regular host, Greg Wright, has been abducted by a sideshow man, and while Granny Ruth is out looking for him, I will be your irregular host, Jimmy Cox. We have today with us filmmaker and professor Steve Collins and filmmaker and professor Spencer Parsons. We're really running the gamut, I think, of Henenlotter enthusiasts today. From middle-aged white film professional in the Northeast to middle-aged white film professional in the Midwest to middle-aged white film professional in Texas. How are you fellas doing today?
Doing great.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Thank you both so much for coming in to talk about our pal Frank.
I'm so happy to talk about him, actually. I've loved his work for a long time, but revisiting a bunch of it all at once this week, I get to like him better and better all the time.
Yeah.
He's a real favorite.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to talk about him since Poor Things came out, because when I saw it, which I liked fine, but I really was like, Frankenhooker is a better movie.
It's true.
Frankenhooker is a better movie than this, and it's fine. I don't think it's bogus or anything, but Frankenhooker to me is funnier, faster, smarter, and more fun, I thought.
And stars James Lawrence. He really deserves to be in all the movies. Yeah. All of them. He's so good.
And I'm glad we're talking about Basket Case too. I think it's an underrated movie and a very rare sequel that feels necessary.
Yeah.
Necessary is a strong word for
Basket Case.
For cinema generally, for any Henenlotter film.
I think absolutely morally necessary.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. Well, Spencer, you mentioned sort of having visited Henenlotter earlier and then revisiting him now. What's your history with Henenlotter or with sort of exploitation in general?
Yeah, so Basket Case 2 is the first of his movies that I saw.
Wild.
And it was on cable in the middle of the night when friends and I in college were looking for. We didn't know we were looking for Basket Case 2, but we were definitely looking for Basket Case 2.
For sure.
That it absolutely hit every possible note for us back then. I really enjoyed it, but I will say that I think for many years I've seen it again over the years because I'm a fan and I'll show up anytime that there's an opportunity to watch a Frank Henenlotter movie. But I think I had really underestimated Basket Case 2. I was really taken with it, and I'll get to this later. when we talk about Bad Biology a little bit, like I think Basket Case 2 is his best movie, even though Bad Biology might be my favorite of his, and those are two kind of different things, and I'll be interested to talk about how and why that works the way that it does. But among other things, Basket Case 2 by far is his most visually exciting film. His staging and blocking and camera movement and everything, it's clear that this one got more of the kind of like time and effort, if not necessarily money, that his films deserve and that they don't always get. And I followed it up quickly with Basket Case 3, which I also have a real soft spot in my heart for. Henenlotter himself doesn't even really like it very much. Yeah. And I had not liked Basket Case 3 when I saw it before. But I don't know, somehow... Yeah, it's not bad.
Somehow it has its charm.
Under the spell of Basket Case 2, having just, I watched them as a double bill. Coming right off of Basket Case 2, the warm glow, enveloped both of the films, and I really did enjoy Basket Case 3, and there's a lot of stuff that's really fun in it. And
it's the one where they sing Personality on the...
I love that scene.
On the bus together, all the freaks. We've
got
and personality. And it's a perfect sum up of Henenlotter. Like, the movies have personality. I mean, these things have personality, even from his first film. They are auteur cinema. They are. You feel his essence in these, and it's a unique thing.
Steve, when did you first see Henenlotter's work?
Well, I saw it in high school with like Frankenhooker. The I don't know if you remember they really had a video store campaign for Frankenhooker.
Want a date?
Yes, Okay, yeah. And so it had a little button you could push on it and stuff. And I was a real sucker for those. Yeah. Those and the holographic kind of DVD or VHS covers. So yeah, I'd gotten lured in high school and been kind of like just I don't know, blown up like a prostitute doing crack, or super crack or ultra crack or whatever they're doing. I just had been really blown away by Frankenhooker, and mostly it is a kind of considering it has prostitutes blowing up, it's a joyful movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
And does have a feminist message that came through. I know we're not supposed to talk to it, but stronger to me. It was very clear that this is all about really taking this person's idea of making some fixes on his girlfriend to make her better for him, that it takes that to its full gory conclusion, and destroys him. I found that more potent than Poor Things, but we're not talking about Frankenhooker. But
I do feel like I feel like every couple of years a sort of prestige-y filmmaker tries to make an exploitation film, and it never hangs together in the same way as when a sleazy weirdo makes an exploitation film.
Yeah. They're kind of travel. Yeah, it is his natural habitat. Henenlotter. It's funny. He always, like in interviews, he calls himself an exploitation filmmaker, and doesn't like to be called a horror filmmaker. Yeah. And I agree. Horror doesn't maybe quite describe what he does, but as we were saying before we started, the show, like he actually has a tremendous amount of heart, which is not something you usually associate with sexploitation or any kind of exploitation. And I think that's really what I responded to in his films. He reminds me of like a John Waters or someone where there's a lot of subversiveness, deviousness. There's a lot of bite, like Belial, but there's a real heart to it as well. And that's why, I mean, that's Basket Case 2, to me, is like, has much more heart than the first one. I still like the first one, but it's so much about like finding a community of misfits and otherness and just in being different. That is so clearly personal to Henenlotter and to anyone who's ever not wanted to make weird things or been weird.
Right.
Which I certainly felt, growing up in the suburbs, just like feeling just a little not in my element. Like maybe I belonged in the attic with Belial and his buddies. But Basket Case 2, I mean, I fell in love with that movie when you just don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
And when it goes up into the attic, and I was just so astounded that they created all these creatures and the ingenuity of the creature design, and like it really impressed me and tickled me. Like I was, and then ultimately it touches you, like Belial finding a girlfriend, Belial doing his girlfriend, like I mean. It's really, it's a really singular movie, I think.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
This is like one of the things about Henenlotter that I really love is that there is such a tendency in the mainstream to, basically neuter anybody who is a freak and is also supposed to be lovable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Somehow in the mainstream, if you're a freak and lovable, you don't have genitals, you don't have sexual desires. There's not going to be a sex scene, between Winona Ryder and Edward Scissorhands. Right. Much as I love that movie, it's just like that. There's a lot. There's a lot that's left in the background that people could go. This is where exploitation is a form of humanism.
Mm-hmm.
It truly is that like the exploitation filmmaker is going to allow in the impolite and ugly parts of people's lives that are still a part of someone's life when they are the freak, the nerd, outside of all this stuff. And
genitals on. Keeps the genitals on.
Well, to be frank, there's he starts to come up in the 1980s, and the 80s is a big era of all these like nerds in cinema, and they're all these like cute, funny kind of guys. Mm-hmm. They should actually get the girl. And historically, what we have seen is that those nerds grew up to be the worst fucking people alive. We're really dealing with the ultimate revenge of the nerds, which that's the only truthful one because it's a rape fantasy in the end. The thing that makes it problematic is also the thing that makes it the truest plug into the mindset of that time and the characters being treated. But Henenlotter is dealing with these freaks as like sort of full animals, full human beings, and that's something that I think is really wonderful.
I would agree. Like, and that's really well put, I think, because he's able to balance when he's at his best. And I had never seen Bad Biology before preparing for this, so I was.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
No, hey, but when he's at his best, he's able to balance both those things. The I don't know, like the absolute. The raw sexuality of Belial and a kind of humanism, or bestiaism, or freakinism, or whatever you want, and it's a miracle that you can balance both those. I will say I don't think it's as successful a balance in Bad Biology. May I say that? I know you're a big...
Sure. I'll make my case.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I really am happy that I saw Bad Biology. I think, I don't know, the last shot alone, the birth, or I mean, there's so many. The final 20 minutes where a what do you call that? A penis snake.
Sure.
Bursts through floorboards and wreaks havoc or pleasure. I don't know what. This movie put things on screen that you can't really ignore. You gotta see this thing. You really need to see this thing. You do. But I don't. That balance is not as finely tuned. Which may be why it's such a sort of buried treasure.
It's buried, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk through Basket Case 2 a little bit, and just sort of like what it is and how it works and why it works.
Well, it picks up from the ending and repeats footage from the ending of Basket Case. Kind of, I think, it's that understanding of like 80s, avant-gutter, kind of exploitation cinema that the audience may not have seen the previous film. So even though it's got a 2 in the title, it kind of has to bring you up to speed enough to move forward and for the story to feel complete. And I think it's a tribute to how well the movie is made that it does actually feel complete. That you start off with this place where at the end of Basket Case, it maybe feels like the characters have died, and that's typical of a Frank Henenlotter movie. He's gonna give you tragedy in a way. By the end, the characters will be destroyed, and then we catch them as they're being sort of resurrected, and also introduce the characters that are going to come to their rescue, and incredible for Altman fans to come in to Basket Case 2 and find Annie Ross, who's so wonderful in Shortcuts and is wonderful in Basket Case 2.
Or don't forget Superman 3 fans.
That's right. I am a fan of Superman 3, and
I also am a fan of Superman 3.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch Superman 3.
She plays Robert Vaughn's sister, who gets turned into a robot at the end.
Incredible.
Quite a thing.
So she's wonderful, and she's she basically has a mansion full of freaks that she has rescued, and it's a community. And she's gonna go. She's seen these 2 poor souls on TV, and she's gonna go rescue them and bring them in. But Duane and Belial, as per the original Basket Case, they are tougher customers than she has in her house, and they bring a lot of trouble with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, is that a good enough plot synopsis?
Yeah, I think so. Belial, there's some line I wrote down in it, because I love the therapist section where...
The therapist stuff is so good.
Where talking to the Belial about the trauma when leaving the brother, says, I understand your pain, but ripping the faces off people may not be in your best interest.
It's good therapy.
Yeah,
good
it
therapy.
is. I mean, it's great.
We should
advice.
all take that to heart,
It's great advice. And that attic of friends, like it is like it's you brought up sort of the neutered nerds or neutered freaks like Pee Wee Herman, who never but it does remind me of a kind of a gorier sort of a dark, maybe slightly darker Pee Wee's Playhouse, but not that dark. I mean, these people, like I think the guy's name is Lorenzo. He's the one with the
voice, the
really wide, like as if someone took like 9 corn cobs and like stuffed them, like a really wide mouth. And he has he sings opera. There's another one always reading like self-help stuff. I mean, they're so like individual and so lovingly crafted. The Moonhead guy, there's one that looks a little bit like a Cenobite. There's like a little mouse one, kind of a mousy. They're so like creative and individual, and it's just like a a real tour de force of like practical creature design.
Absolutely, and I'm you mentioned Cenobite, so I'm going to bring in Clive Barker and particularly Nightbreed into the conversation.
Yeah.
Basket Case 2 is kind of the real Nightbreed, and I love Clive Barker. I love his books. I love the book that Nightbreed is based on, Cabal, but Nightbreed is not great, and part of it is in the conception of the monsters, which this is the interesting thing that Henenlotter can pull off. The monsters in Nightbreed are on the surface scarier, but in the way the movie plays, they feel soft in relationship to Barker's imagination and experience. The one creature in Nightbreed that works like mad is David Cronenberg. And it's, whether he's wearing the mask or not wearing the mask, he's terrifying.
He is terrifying.
All these monsters are not great. And there's something that Henenlotter pulls off here with the menagerie of monsters that is, Midian. That we come to this house and it's the more successful version of that. And also, psychologically, what Duane and Belial are going through, honestly, I don't think that Henenlotter read the book before he made Basket Case 2, but it's actually closer to what Clive Barker himself was getting at in the book than what he did in the movie. It's like both sort of sexually and in terms of the violence of the characters, within more of a comedy setup.
Speaking of Nightbreed, as I was going through, I sort of jotted down other movies that are based around a collection of weird, gross guys. Because I was like, there's a bunch from this era, and I wanted to check years. So this is 1990, Basket Case 2. Nightbreed, also 1990.
Right.
1986 is Neon Maniacs, the one in San Francisco. 1987 is Garbage Pail Kids. And then 1993 is Freaked. Those are all the ones I could think of that were sort of comparable in terms of like sort of threatening, sort of friendly, disgusting dudes hanging out.
Would we count like the Puppet Master films as well?
We should. We absolutely should. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like this more during Bad Biology than Basket Case 2, but there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, this is Full Moon Pictures wishes it was Frank Henenlotter.
Exactly.
All the time. He's doing similar stuff, but like good. No offense to the Full Moon heads out there.
No, those movies are good, but it's just it's like this is those movies are good. I'm not going to insult them, but this is the difference with, hate to bring the word in, but an auteur.
Yeah, sure.
Like the Frank Henenlotter touch. Really is a thing that that takes something that is a fun diversion and makes it into a movie that I can rewatch over and over again. And that gives me slightly different experiences each time. Another big favorite of mine that he made that I rewatched this week is Brain Damage.
That
I love Brain Damage.
Brain Damage
That's
is
my perennial favorite.
Love that film. The thing that I think Brain Damage and Basket Case 2 have in common is they have a really simple like structure and spine to them. Like Brain Damage really just being very simply about like falling into addiction, except the addiction happens to be this kind of sort of sophisticated phallic turd that sucks onto your head and fills your head with whatever, like Windex, it seems like. And speaks with kind of like a mid-Atlantic kind of like jaunty accent.
Zachary voice.
Delightful. But with Basket Case 2, it's just that like it's really just about Duane like eventually embracing his freakdom. And for those of you not familiar with the series, Duane, we haven't really talked the basics. Duane was a Siamese twin with a malformed kind of mutant brother named Belial. Good name. And
biblical.
They decided to sever them And so now in the first movie, Belial's kept in a basket because they're still psychically connected, and hence the basket case. And Belial keeps jumping the basket and ripping people's faces off.
As you do.
Yeah, as one does. And this movie really, I mean, it takes seriously like Duane embracing his status, because Duane looks from the outside like a normal person. He has this giant scar on him on his side where he was severed, but Duane has to, and in this movie, the plot is essentially that he falls in love with one of the women at the freak home,
who also appears normal.
Who appears normal, but then gradually we realize she is hiding a kind of. I just love this turn of events. Yeah. We find out that she's pregnant and has been pregnant for what, like
6 years?
6 years.
Yeah.
And the baby just doesn't want to come out. And we're like, we hear this and we're like, what? And then we see, and they have this great practical effect thing where she's lying on a bed and she like touches her stomach, and this kind of like Little Shop of Horrors, like Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors, like comes out of her stomach, kind of like more like a kangaroo or something, like a kangaroo pouch, comes out, goes, wah! And then like jumps back in. It's like a really delightful practical effect, and also like a really good script that the woman he falls in love with, that he thinks is normal, is actually a freak, and this causes him to kind of accidentally push her out the window.
You're right.
Which is, it's like a great tragedy in it too. Like his flaw is he cannot accept his own freakdom, and so he ends up freaking out and killing this woman he could have had a lovely life with, raising this child if it ever chose to come out.
Absolutely.
Well, that's I don't say tragedy lightly, and I think you just mentioned tragedy. That's something that runs across all of Henenlotter's films. Yes. He's really dealing with the situation for his characters from a tragic point of view, and even if they don't die at the end, as Duane and Belial don't at the end of Basket Case 2, there's a kind of ruination, that always occurs, and that the freakishness is at once something that we should sympathize with, but also we're not going to look away from how the freakishness can be murderous.
Yes.
It can be accidental, but also murderous. There are so Belial is an amazing character, and in the original, I love the Belial puppet figure. Yes. Stop motion character that was created for the first one, definitely crude, and they upped their game with the Belial puppet, and there are different kinds of techniques used for Belial at different moments, and Belial is really a quite sympathetic creature at times, but then cannot stop himself from biting somebody's face off in a moment, and can be really frightening, genuinely frightening. The most frightening moment for me in Basket Case 2, and there are a couple of them. Other Henenlotters don't get like really scary, but there are a couple of really nightmarish moments, and one is where the photographer who's after them, gets attacked by all the freaks together. Genuinely tense, genuinely frightening. And there's another bit where Duane is having a conversation with Belial, and then Belial is just on the floor and laughs at him. And I think in that moment, it's a kind of puppet, but like with a real
head
person's face, doing the
same
performance.
Actor, because they used his,
that's funny.
They're brothers,
right? Because they're brothers. They're twin brothers. So
of course, brothers. Yeah.
So that moment of Belial laughing is really that's like one of those nightmare fuel kind of things. Like in the moment, it's not like anybody's dying or there's violence or anything, but there's something deeply sinister about the way that he laughs, how that performance and effect is pulled off.
It's even just striking that he has a human face, right? Because you're used to him having this sort of
the weird
face.
the
and all of a
face.
sudden he is alive. And you're like, it's disconcerting, certainly.
It really is.
Going to that, I'm glad you brought up the photographer sequence, the photographer kills. So the photographer sneaks up into the attic and he wants to get a picture. Like, these guys are all being hidden from the press. Everyone knows about Belial because he was hanging out at the end of the first one. He was hanging out a window
in Times Square.
In Times Square. So everybody knows about him, but he's disappeared. And so the photographer is going to find them and finally gets in and snoops up, as the press does, and goes up into your attic to find all your dirty business. And it's just like, it's actually like a bit of a visual tour de force. Use of light, like while he's got the camera stuck on like auto snap, and so all the creatures start attacking and Belial starts attacking the photographer, it just goes from absolute black to another snippet of horror, then back to black, and another snippet of horror as the flash goes off. All to this kind of staccato sound of the shutter going off. Like, it's a really inventive visual sequence, which is not, I don't know, it's not necessarily what you think of when, like, if you, mostly it's the sensibility you think of, maybe not the cinematic skill, the formal skill of Henenlotter, but like, it's a really creative sequence. One you could pull out and teach.
Certainly, most of the murder sequences are sort of Belial whirling around, right?
Yes,
just sort of in a space, and then someone is murdered. So it is, it's a switch up to. It feels also like it's referential a little bit to Rear Window.
Yes, it is.
But if
similar to
Hitchcock were bold enough to have a little dude murder a guy, you know what I mean? He wasn't going to go so far.
No, he didn't have the guts.
Well, also, this is a movie that obviously bears Basket Case 2 is in the lineage of freaks, and the sequence at the end in the rainstorm with all the freaks crawling toward their victim. This sequence also reminded me of that, the way that the lightning is used to sort of illuminate and then create darkness. And honestly, there's a connection here. And I will say Freaks remains one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
Oh, for sure.
And, this is 1932, when it was released. I think it's 32, maybe 31. This is playing into that lineage and in the same kind of, exploitation humanism of the old freak show.
Of the old freak show. Yes, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
There's also a moment in Basket Case 2 that I found really interesting this time that I hadn't noticed before. There's a very pointed shot that they cut to as the van full of freaks pulls away from after they've murdered this editor of a magazine that's come to do the story. As the van pulls away, it goes to the license plate, and the license plate has the handicapped sign on it. And I found that to be a really, really interesting choice by Henenlotter to join his fantasy with the reality of the lives of handicapped people who get treated like, and particularly back in the Todd Browning time, were literally treated as freaks. That for people with certain kinds of handicaps, the sideshow was it if you were going to have sort of a means of supporting yourself.
I like it.
So I think there's a genuine stake that he has in depicting this as disability and disability rights within the story, and that I also find, this is really interesting. Not far from the mind these days to talk about, movies that are that deal in stories or allegories of revolution. Freaks is definitely more revolutionary in its allegory than Basket Case 2. Sure. But I do think that there's still something that that Henenlotter is tapping into, that's sort of like the necessity for a revolution by people who are oppressed. In this case, freaks and disabled people, is not going to be nice.
Right.
It's not like, oh, everything's going to be happy and flowers afterwards. Revolution itself is a highly frightening kind of thing. And in horror cinema, especially, I think Todd Browning and George Romero are two of the big sort of poets of, horror as an allegory for revolution. Maybe that's not quite Frank Henenlotter, but I do think that he's tapping into it. And this also, in a much smaller way, comes into bad biology as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would, not exactly a political allegory, Basket Case 2, but the thing I would take from that is, some of the viciousness of Belial, it is about a kind of retribution for being outcast,
Yes.
And it is, and the reason we root for Belial a little bit, just a little bit, is because no one would sit with us at the lunch table. I mean, or at the cafeteria. He is sort of putting us on the side of the not popular kids. And the ones who have not been accepted, or the others, whether it's whatever, sexual identity or physical deformity, or you've got 500 teeth in your mouth, or whatever, whatever it is. And I do think that is, that bite that this film has, and the horrific violence of this film, is a kind of like, it's not nice when they've been bullied and picked, it's like, it can get quite vicious. That's how kind of I would read it.
All the murders are justified. I mean, I don't know if they're all the best justified, but they're all, within Belial's frame of reference. They're all, there's a reason for every murder he does, which is
good.
There is a real sort of
defense lawyer for Belial.
Thank you. There is like a real populism, I think, to Henenlotter's movies, which I think we've been dancing around a thought. We said this, I think, before we started recording, but we mentioned that he's sort of a nihilistic filmmaker, and that anyone could die at any moment. And there's a real sort of brutalness to his movies, but he does really love his characters. He makes them all with love. And I think one of the things that Basket Case 2 for me does is it sort of recontextualizes. I think when I first watched Basket Case, it feels like a grimy movie. You get that sort of dark nihilism, and but you spend so much time looking at this Belial puppet that you're like, there's a weird confidence about showing this goofy puppet / stop motion dude so much. And in Basket Case 2, he doubles down. He's like, not only are we going to look at Belial all the time, we're going to look at all these other super goofy creatures I made, because not only do I love them conceptually as characters, but I love these things that I've made, and I love these toys that we're going to play with that I'm going to show to you, and I'm not concerned. A lot of movies would be, I think, hesitant to show you too much of their goofy looking rubber guy. You know?
I know. Yes, he embraces it. He loves
it.
Yeah. He embraces it.
And tribute to Gabe Bartalos, who we have not mentioned yet.
That's
right. The big driving force behind the makeup in these movies. But I just want to mention one particular scene that I found really interesting this time because of how it plays with sympathy. The murder of the reporter, who is not a terribly unsympathetic character. She's doing a job. She's pursuing a story. She calls out her editor on his kind of more exploitative, instincts, and she is reasonably sympathetic. And then the scene in which Duane and the freaks break into her apartment to kill her, is played in a really interesting way because it's played from her point of view when the sequence starts, and it is a very traditional kind of suspense sequence with a gag of the camera following her over a long take as she moves from her bedroom into the bathroom and back to the bedroom and back to the bathroom, and the window is broken, while she's in the bathroom and sort of from off screen, and we don't hear it because she's drying her hair, and then she comes to find that the window is broken, and that means somebody has gotten in, and there's that traditional suspense sympathy with her and fear for her, even though our main sympathy in the movie has been with Duane and Belial. And then the way this plays out, Duane is quite nasty in the scene.
Menacing.
He's really nasty. We're used to Belial flying out off the handle, but Duane is the kind of put upon, like, nerdy nice guy side, the normal guy. And here he is directing things in a way that is very cold and really vicious. And I love how Henenlotter is able to include both of these points of view in such a moment of violence. We so often get one or the other. And a way of talking about certain horror movie violence is when you're somewhat sympathizing with the monster, or even you just like the monster, and then the people are kind of awful. A term that came up in a test screening for one of my movies, where we presented, one of the characters was about to die as being unpleasant, was that we were somebody said that we were salting the meat, and I think salting the meat
is that good
actually,
or bad?
Right?
Oh, he meant it in a good way. Yeah. He meant it in a good way.
Okay,
That
good.
for the horror fan, the upcoming kill, you're getting excited about it and making somebody unpleasant. You're then rooting for the kill to happen.
Yes.
And so that's a very traditional kind of move in horror, and especially in exploitation horror. And one of the things that makes Henenlotter really interesting is that he's going to give you kind of both. He'll give you both points of view, and we have a rooting interest in the freaks for the obvious reason, but we can also be frightened on behalf of the person who will be their victim.
I similarly had really conflicted feelings when Belial assaults and murders the dude who runs the freak show.
Yeah.
Because that guy, like, I get that he is on some level exploiting the freaks by having sort of handmade versions of freaks but that dude himself is also a freak. And like, I felt a lot of sympathy for that guy.
Absolutely.
Also, he's the one who keeps yelling 100 smackaroos, right?
100 smackaroos,
which I also loved. So I was super on board with that guy, and then Ruth shows up with Belial and they just murder him, and I was bummed about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can find our moral compass following these people.
No,
because at the end of the day, like they have to deliver those kills, don't they? Yeah. But it is to me, the astounding thing is that in the end, he is able to actually take this movie and when the end is essentially him trying to sew Belial back on him
and succeeding.
Yes, and succeeding. Well, yeah, yes, it's on him. But really, it really does resonate and say something about, the sort of tragedy of not accepting yourself, this image of a kind of crudely sewn on Belial hanging off your side. And that he's able to do that, and still deliver all these just like vicious, morally dubious kills. I find this film it's a really impressive balancing act, and full of heart. I want to hear about Spencer, your take on Bad Biology. I do see why you recommend it. I see its beauty. It has peaks that really just had my mouth dropped open. I was like, what am I watching here? But I also thought it had some valleys.
What? Uneven, you say?
It is amazingly sleazy.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start with a tiny bit of plot setup, synopsis. We have these two characters. It's this is an ensemble movie in a way, but we have these two characters, neither of whom is the total protagonist for the film. Possibly I'm forget. Oh man, I should write down names and stuff that always go out of my head for these
names. Don't feel very important in this.
No, I think the genitals are pretty much
the genitals are very
the
important.
defining characteristic here.
So we begin the movie with this woman who has 7 clitori.
Yes.
Both the normative clitoris outside, and then 6
they
more.
They seem to be
inside her vagina.
Yes.
And that makes her insatiable, and sex does two things for her. She will both get pregnant and have a baby very, very quickly.
Yes.
Within minutes, yes.
Within minutes. And then also it makes her incredibly emotional to a point where she can become murderous, in the moment of orgasm in one case, and in another case, when one of her partners, kind of brushes her off a little bit after sex, she has to kill him because she's so emotionally overwrought. So she has this incredible.
She has, just to clarify, she has mutant babies. They're not.
And she has mutant babies.
They're not normal babies.
Which she tells us directly.
Yes,
she directly addresses.
She tells it. Well, so this is one of the things that's interesting about this movie is like. This is partly I think the influence of R.A. the Rugged Man as a co-writer on the film, that we get these monologues to camera in addition to a fair bit of voiceover narration. And there's a feeling at sometimes of it being like an off-Broadway play of, the characters speaking directly to us. And this is one of the things that I really like about this movie, is that in a weird way, it is still allegorized, but the allegory is kind of chipped away here through the directness.
Yeah.
The directness of this being about, people's sexual organs as the freaks, but also so much about their desires, that it is very direct, and it's not subtextual. They will speak about their desires, and they will speak about their fears in a direct way that is a little bit unlike Basket Case 2 and like Brain Damage. So then the other main character who we're going to follow is this guy who lives in a big yellow mansion, and he's fighting his own battles with a mutated penis that has a mind of its own, that seems to have that talks to. We never hear the voice of the penis, but from the dialogue, this guy, with his dong, we can tell that the penis is inside his head and speaks to him in a similar way to how Belial speaks to Duane. So we have these two characters, and they're on a collision course toward each other. And, easy to see where the guy with the literal monster prehensile dick is going to come together with the lady who has
literally
7 clitori, and that she ultimately sees this as a kind of holy communion thing. She sees it in religious terms, and that what she's really after is fucking God. And she does levitate in her moment of orgasm at the end. So that's kind of our setup and some spoilers about where things go. I guess I'll add that in the ways that they both deal with their problem. So the gentleman deals with kind of physically and directly fighting with his penis. The lady is trying to sublimate her desires through art. She is a photographer and she does art making, and there's a level of, she is trying to deal with her problems in a kind of, I don't want to say therapeutic, but in a psychological way that this guy doesn't seem quite capable of. He's really only capable of wrapping duct tape around his.
Well, he's also skipping. Because there's a little of brain damage in here where he's he's drugging.
That's right.
He's having to drug his penis into oblivion to control it.
That's right.
And so he's kind of hooked, and the penis has a very high tolerance now, and he's having difficulty finding enough drugs to sedate subdue
the penis.
Yeah.
So and I guess especially over multiple viewings, because I think this is probably the fourth time I've seen it.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah. It actually
You're doing God's work, Spencer.
Yeah. well, it's funny. The first viewing was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
It is.
The second viewing is I got to show it to some friends who are not prepared.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
Third viewing is when I ordered my 4K disc from Vinegar Syndrome.
4K, whoa.
It's on 4K, yeah.
Unnecessary. Shot, I think, in 720.
I know.
Or standard def, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then this time, and I was actually surprised because I kept putting it off because I was like, oh, I've seen this enough. And I really enjoy it. I came to enjoy it even better, this time. I think,
I enjoyed it better. I've seen it twice.
Okay, twice, yeah.
Yes, same. I enjoyed it better the second time.
Also same.
And it doesn't quite set up the joy of it. No. There's the missing. It has ingredients of these two as kind of misfit genital creatures, but there's not, the love isn't there. It's not quite as joyous.
It's not.
But it does reach a kind of delirious height. And when you know that's coming, the beginning is easier, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I guess one of the reasons why I'm saying that this one is my favorite right now is I really got into the pain of it on this viewing. Stuff that I had found outrageous and funny before was not at all funny to me this time. It did not, it's nasty. This movie is really nasty, and I think I found this stuff funny before just because I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yes. Yeah.
And I might have been even laughing over some of what was happening, and that it kind of inoculated me from fully taking in. So in a certain way, some of the people that really probably would not like this movie are tapping into its nastiness in a way that I actually agree with and admire, but I take it in the sort of tragic direction. So for instance, the masturbation machine scene.
Yes. Patent pending, according to the credits.
Which is a ridiculous, outrageous kind of thing. And the first time that I saw it, I'm just focused on, oh, he really built this crazy machine, and it is ridiculous. And we're building up to showing the enormous prehensile dick. We haven't shown it yet. Right. So it's like suggesting it in the way that the early scenes of Jaws suggest the shark. All that kind of stuff. But he has this monologue that was really, to me, on this fourth viewing, when I know what's coming, it hit me as a genuinely painful thing where, talking about not even a botched circumcision, but a botched removal of the umbilical cord is actually a botched removal of his dick.
Yeah.
Which then is sewn back onto his body, and it doesn't work. And then, of course, as he's going through puberty, he has all these feelings, and then the dick doesn't work. And so then he's got to give it drugs, and he's got to watch so much porn. And then he's created this monster in his pants that's not of any particular use, because he can't get, now it's crazy and out of control, and he can't get any pleasure from it. And it also taps into, I think, a very uncomfortable and basic fear of sex for both of these characters in different ways, that the sexual act is going to hurt your partner. There is potential pain and hurt involved automatically for these people, and it's for different reasons. and it gets worked out in different ways. But I find that to be, as an exploitation setup, a pretty admirable kind of bit of dirty. I'm not assuming anything about Frank Henenlotter, but a kind of dirty laundry, like that by admitting this thing of really fearing that what for you is normal sex is going to hurt somebody else is I think that's a pretty big deal, and I think it plays into. There's a moment that's like that in Brain Damage, of course, the notorious blowjob scene. But this is kind of, you take the concept of that blowjob scene and expand that
to 85 minutes.
To like the whole movie and the directness of it. So in Brain Damage, spoiler, the blowjob scene I'm speaking of is that Elmer, this parasite that drugs the main character needs to eat brains, and so there's a scene in which Elmer, in place of the dick, comes out of the fly and into this woman's mouth, and then eats her brains through her mouth. This is a kind of logic that permeates all of bad biology, and that is extremely nasty.
Yeah.
It really goes beyond like horror comedy.
I wouldn't like it.
No.
To be involved in any capacity,
No,
really.
no, I wouldn't like being on the receiving end of that. I mean, I took it more as an extension. Maybe we're saying the same thing, but an extension of the addiction story. This movie,
for sure.
The sex, really going a little more fine tuned into sex addiction as opposed to drug addiction. And I think that's my problem a bit with the movie, is it's sort of misfit movie. Here we are, two misfit genitals people, and it's half like addiction movie. Here we are, two sex addicts, and I kind of lose the center. I mean, when you said like a big load of laundry, it's sort of like they're mixing the colors with the whites or something. I don't know what this movie really is. It doesn't really, I don't know. It doesn't seem to have unity to me, but it's certainly throwing a lot of things. And you brought up earlier that it is, I also sort of read up on it. It is co-written with that hip hop artist guy. What's his name?
R.A. the Rugged Man.
R.A. the Rugged Man. Had you heard of him? Is he famous? And I just don't know who he is.
Medium.
He wasn't famous to me before this movie. For sure. I think he's part of New York rap scene, and there are a lot of rappers throughout the cast of this movie. So a lot of the small roles are calling in friends in that scene.
And I think some of the money comes from him too.
Yes.
He paid for it, yeah.
Yeah.
He also, in the rap at the end of the credits,
yes, a charming rap.
He specifically says that he didn't like working with casting directors, so he just cast his friends instead.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. This has one of the greatest end title songs. To me, this is up there with the end title song from Skidoo, which is
Harry Nilsson.
Just singing all the Harry Nilsson singing all the names and roles throughout the cast and crew. And this is telling the story of the making down to stuff about craft services.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In a rap, really, really incredible. Nothing else quite like it.
But I do wonder if that collaboration with the guy who has the money has to do with some of maybe this not all gelling together for some people.
Have you guys listened to R.A. the Rugged Man's music?
A little bit.
He is very, his sort of general vibe is I'm a little too edgy and everyone can't handle me. It's a little self-pitying and a little bit, the tone is very similar to, it feels, you can definitely feel his fingers throughout. He also shows up in the movie. He plays the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
Also, the main character lady is his girlfriend at the time of the making of the film.
Does
so
he
he's
do?
Definitely he's in the movie.
Like
literally.
shock? Is his thing?
It's like a little shocking.
Naughty
it's a little
shock
shocking.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
like Dr.
Yeah.
Octagon or something like that. That's sort of from my day.
I would say less fun.
Less fun than Dr. Octagon.
For my taste. For my taste.
No, I think it's interesting. There's a lot. So for instance, in these monologues, there's a lot more kind of self-conscious wordplay,
Yes.
and that kind of thing. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Oh my God, I love these kids. The scene in the diner. That's kind of the introduction of the main dude as a character. He's eating in a diner, and there are these teenagers at another table who are talking about big dicks.
Yeah.
The dialogue is hilarious, and the delivery by these three kids, I love them. I think they're all, each of them has a slightly different acting style or non-acting style, but I find them all really funny. In particular, the girl with the long red hair who seems so angry to be talking about big dicks. I love their performances, and it also brings out what I love in the lead actor's performance, which is he starts listening to them, and it's just this like funny, crazy talk, and he's put upon and confused in this moment, and then he has to run out and vomit. But this kind of put upon and confused vibe that he carries throughout the rest of the movie.
Yes.
I really do find weirdly sympathetic throughout. I mean, it's no, it's not like he's a great actor, but he finds a zone to go through in an exploitation movie that I really find him hilarious as a point of sympathy. This sad sack dude who just cannot figure anything out. He reminds me a little bit. This is a deep cut, but it is, I think, related to this and Henenlotter's other stories. William Graffet, a Florida-based exploitation filmmaker in the 70s, who made a movie called Mako Jaws of Death, which I had to see because I pretty much see any movie I can about sharks before they started doing all the I've seen Sharknado, but I don't need those CGI sharks and those kinds of concepts. I just want a shark movie where sharks eat people. So Richard Jekyll is the lead in Mako Jaws of Death, which is about a sad sack guy who is friends with sharks, and when the mafia comes to his town and starts messing with him, then he uses his shark friends to kill the mafia.
Love it.
And so it's there's a similarity, in sort of plot with some of that work, but it is a thing from exploitation that I've noticed sometimes in some actors where they might even not be confused as a character, they might be confused as an actor. That like all the things that they're being put through, and that they're not really trained actors, that they kind of have a sad, confused quality about them. This is something that this guy, I think the actor's name is Anthony Sneed, brings that I find really funny and charming. And then I really like I like the performances in this movie.
Yeah.
None of them are hitting the peaks, for instance, of a James Lawrence or I think the performances are better than Kevin Van Hentendrich. So even though I think that Basket Case 2 is a better movie, like he's not as good a performer, and I say performer rather than actor. He's not as good a performer as the people that populate Bad Biology for me. And another hero performance here is, and this is a moment that I felt like was really key for my emotional relationship to it this time. The Jiggy Jig lady?
Jimmy Jig. Where's my Jimmy Jig?
Yes.
Where's my Jimmy Jig? The Where's My Jimmy Jig lady. She's
incredible.
She's incredible. She's too real.
Yeah.
She's
like
in
a different movie.
She's in a different movie.
Yeah.
She's a meth head who has wandered in.
She's in New Jack City.
Yeah, she's really from another planet. And actually, in terms of the addiction part of it, this creates an interesting moment of she's realistic in a way where the first time I saw it, I just found the outrage of somebody going, "Where's my Jimmy Jig?" And interrupting the scene over and over as kind of a wacky kind of counterpoint to it. But her performance is actually really disturbing to me. and I couldn't find it funny, and I also found it extremely gross when our main guy looks over and he's obviously checking out her ass while she's leaning over the couch looking for her Jimmy Jig. And it's just like, this is the worst kind of situation. You're like ogling whatever. There's one moral value to it, but ogling somebody in this kind of psychological and drugged distress is also really awful. And it reminds me of the history of exploitation cinema, which Frank Henenlotter is part of preserving through his label Something Weird Video, of like the old sexploitation films that were presented as if they were about venereal diseases, but they were the only way to legally show genitals on screen. So in order to go and see genitals, you had to accept that they were going to be diseased genitals with pockmarks and scabs and all this kind of stuff. And it reminded me of that, that part of exploitation cinema of getting the peep show, but only getting the peep show because, for instance, these porn actors are on drugs and they don't know what's going on, or the old tradition. And Henenlotter is putting fairly real looking porn on TV screens, that is not cute or trying to look like something else or leaving on clothes to, no, you're not seeing penetration or anything like that, but it looks like the shots of hardcore pornography where you're not seeing genitals, but the people are really having sex, and it's that brings another kind of flavor to the sex addiction kind of side of this.
Epps, you're just talking, there's more real in here. And one observation I thought of, watching this, just a kind of cinema observation, is like, the penis monster is something we can see. As we are familiar with the male genitalia, it is outside the body. The her genitalia is inside. We get one little shot of the little 6 clitori inside, but we're really just watching a lady like screw people. And so there's not really that balance of like Belial with a bunch of, I think it's in Basket Case 3, he's kind of like sitting next to those sort of like topless ladies, where there's just this kind of balance of like humor and the grotesque. There isn't that balance in this movie because the genitalia are inside the woman, and the first half of the movie is all her, just like sort of Black Widowing
smashing a dude's head down with a lamp.
Exactly. And smashing a guy's skull in and screwing these people to death. And I do think that when Henenlotter's able to take and it's like brain damage, like he takes the addiction and gives it this cute little form, this kind of phallic turd that he creates that has a mouth and opens up and talks
and sings.
And sings. And that's what is the part of the balance, the unreality. And as you pointed out with like the Jimmy Jig, this starts to get into like almost like I don't know, like you're like at Andy Warhol's factory, like filming some like really drugged out people. And so the balance is off. And to me, it's the last 20 minutes that save it, when the penis finally comes off the body and is roaming around with its balls attached and like kind of like inchworming. Inchworming around. That's to me where the film really sort of falls more into balance. And watching him actually wrestle when I forget who comes in and sees him actually trying to wrestle when it's still on his body, wrestle his dick. And it's kind of like going all over like a...
That's the moment where the leading woman realizes, this is my guy.
This is my
she
guy,
opens the door and he's fighting with the enormous dick. And that's the first time that we see it.
But it's just interesting that like part of the issue is if female genitalia were on the outside of the body, and could go around, like this movie might be more in balance, because you have this unreality on top of this, what I don't know what we want to call it, but New Jack City or whatever. I'm trying to think of the kind of crack era of movies. Like something that was very realistic.
I think Andy Warhol is actually...
Yeah, Andy Warhol might be better. Yeah.
I think Andy Warhol is the best comparison because there's the Andy Warhol movies have performance in them, and performance by actors who are not good but are fascinating.
Yes, and also seem really drugged out.
And people that really seem drugged out, and stuff that is a little too real.
Yeah.
So you came for porn? Well, you're also gonna have to accept
we're doing a little art project.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what this feels like. That he's made this in an environment where there's a lot of like drugs and stuff maybe going on and something, and now he's kind of adding a little of himself to as well. It's interesting, and I just wonder if there were plans to make more of these.
I don't know. Well, certainly this one did not make money.
Yeah,
it's kind of slithered out onto direct-to-video,
slithered out.
Yeah, I did that. And actually has gained a slower cult reputation because, like, I remember when I first found out that it existed, I was like, oh, I have to see this. I love Frank Henenlotter, and so I'm looking for it online, and there were a couple of scenes that people had clipped from it, and they put them up on YouTube as like, this is the worst acting I've ever seen. That was like the nature of the clip. And of course, having seen other Henenlotter films, that did not deter me because I was like, in context, I think this acting is probably going to be pretty interesting, and I do find it interesting. But yeah, it's out there for sure. And I guess maybe, Steve, I have more patience for, and I genuine love for the Warhol stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The Warhol Morrissey films and. Movies like Vinyl and that the Warhol stuff I do find really, really fascinating and sad, and I've spent a lot of time reading about those people that I've seen in those films. A biography of one of the Warhol superstars comes out, and I'm the first to read it because they're very remote. They seem to be in distress, and I'm completely in love with them because of that, and I feel for them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Warhol was a humanist at all. I think Warhol is much more on the side of using people.
Yes.
But he somehow created a community and a vibe where I could fall in love with these people in the way that, like, Lou Reed has fallen in love with all of them in Walk on the Wild Side. That does come through in the cinema, even though Warhol's very much of a blank. And Henenlotter's not, but yeah, we're accepting a new kind of a new aesthetic introduced into Henenlotter's work here.
Yeah, it's a little. When you were talking, it reminded me of something like Driller Killer. You know that?
I love Driller Killer. Oh my god!
Like it, Driller Killer is one of the scuzziest movies ever made, but really captures something. What you're talking about is what I see in Driller Killer, where you've got a collection of people, artists in the, I don't know where they are, the East Village or Alphabet City or wherever, like, and you feel the disease in them. And it's compelling, and it's somewhat sympathetic. You feel the unhealthy environment, and it's a kind of horror of being an artist and broke and in that environment. I just think in this it didn't. I do feel disease. I just didn't. I didn't feel the unity of like and what. It's sort of, it feels like a split movie, and I hadn't thought that it might be, because now I'm wondering how much it is because of the sort of dual authorship of it. Especially when I didn't realize he had paid for it. Maybe I'd read that, but that makes a big difference. Who's paying for it? Whose ideas you have to say yes to?
Yeah, well, it seems like they're good friends and creative partners and whatnot, but. Yeah, R.A. the Rugged Man started by going to Frank Henenlotter, had noticed there weren't any new films, in some time, and said, "Hey, do you want to make something new? I'd love to pay for it because I want to see more of your work."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and then it turns out that they really seem to enjoy working with each other, and like in the extras for this movie that you get on the 4K
On the 4K.
version that they put out, the extras for this one include like a kind of Halloween, like some kind of not a haunted house, but like a Halloween event that Frank Henenlotter and a couple of people that worked on it, and R.A. the Rugged Man and R.A.'s kids have gone on. And so there's just this like weird home video quality of friends hanging out at Halloween time before they go into telling a story about how the yellow mansion that they shot this in was allegedly haunted. And there were a couple of the scenes that were really getting disrupted repeatedly by the ghosts. Apparently, the scene at the end, after they've had sex, the ghost was slamming the door over and over, and they just took a break and came back and like managed to get the door secured so the ghost couldn't slam it anymore. And they have various other stories like that, which I leave to everybody's beliefs.
Yes.
What happened.
And I'm glad you brought up that, because I think sometimes we think, oh, these guys, they didn't get to have a full career, and what a waste. And well, I do wish there were a few more well-budgeted Henenlotter films. I also think it's great that he started something weird, and and that he spent sort of his twilight years basically promoting the kind of films he loved. I think as we're all older, middle-aged filmmakers, if you're doing this longer and longer, I have really grown in appreciation to the curators and the people who really find audiences for little seen things. And I, as a film fan, really like these places like Vinegar Syndrome and Something Weird, and there are quite a few of them that go in and dig through everything and do some curation for us, so that that we're not stuck having to watch like Fred Zinnemann pictures and these kind of prestige like that's the history of film, that we have to watch these Sidney Poitier sort of issue films that you can see something that has a little bit of energy, or something like Bad Biology that is like so singular and like nothing precedented, that it's just like, I want to see some new ideas here. And I think that's I do think that's the only way to keep film culture alive, is if people feel like they're going to go to the movie and like, oh, it's like Fantastic Four. Oh, it's different. Oh, you mean they're going to put an Instagram filter on it and it's going to look like it's in the 60s? That's not really what I meant by different. People want to see different, I think. Real different. And Bad Biology is different.
Very different. Very different.
Very different.
It's different. Love it or hate it, it's something else.
It's definitely a thing you haven't seen before, unless you've seen it before.
Well, even then, I mean, I have had different experiences with it every time, and I think partly because it's such an unstable quantity. Mm-hmm. Steve, I think you're right that it's not balanced, but one of the things that makes it a favorite for me is the wildness.
It's wild.
That it really does these like wild, crazy things, and it has different kind. I mean, we haven't even talked about the like vagina face scene, which is also I also found to be really interesting, because that's like, so we've got a character who's working out her psychosexual issues through art, and she has all these topless models running around the mansion with these vagina models on their faces, and these rappers are there for a photo shoot and sort of, fingering the labia on these masks, and people are getting grossed out. And then there's a moment where she goes too far with one of her models. So there's a way, there's also this like, artist taking responsibility within the text of the work. No, it's not something that if you're objecting to it already, it's like, oh, Frank Henenlotter is really okay. But there is this level that and this is always the case, as we talked about before, the freak characters aren't just nice. The freakishness can be dangerous and bad. And the wildness of the scene is one where, and then tonally it swings back and forth in a crazy way. But this model becomes upset. She's then being observed by the guy who lives in the house, who has the enormous penis, who is now going to be sort of revealed to other characters in the movie. And then she becomes the model who just recently felt hurt, makes this whip turn towards being horny for this guy. And then he runs away in fear because his dick knocks over a bunch of boxes. We can't just describe these as horror or even as horror comedy completely, but there's a real moment of horror that hits me. It's played as a joke, but again, it's a joke that goes too far. The scene when the main guy has sex with a hooker and she can't stop orgasming. Yes. There is something funny about it at first, but it really becomes... It is horrifying by the end, and also the lack of empathy from the two main characters. Like
dumping her in the alley.
The guy dumps her in the alley, and she's still going. And then another woman comes and takes pictures of her while she's continuing to orgasm, and then abandons her. This is very ugly. This is horrific, and there are all kinds of reasons why that might be problematic to watch. But I feel like within the whole here, that is part of the intended effect, and part of what I think makes Frank Henenlotter a very interestingly moral filmmaker. I think he is a very moral filmmaker, but not in any of the normative ways. But getting back to tragedy, and Henenlotter being somebody who makes tragedies, the morality of Hamlet is also very slippery. Hamlet is constantly murdering people, and by accident, and then deliberately in ways that are, not really, not really something we should approve of. And I think this is something that Henenlotter is tapping into about, like, a tragedy as a moral form that takes us through a lot of stuff in our relationship to the characters.
The performances in Bad Biology really are striking. And I like them for the most part. But they're striking. And I realized most of the way through this second watch that it's basically the whole movie is written as monologues. And so it's like she's delivering her monologues, and she has a tone she's on that is sort of consistent across the whole film. And then, as you mentioned, the guy Bats, I don't remember the actor's name, Sneed, is sort of like confused and angry, and perform, and just doing his absolute best to just chew up these long monologues, over and over again. But it feels a little bit like it is them doing a Shakespearean tragedy, right? Where these two people are both being fully controlled by their genitalia that they didn't ask for and don't want, and they're just on a trajectory towards mutual destruction. And it's a super tragic story, and it's done in these monologues, but it's also done, as you mentioned earlier, it's written with sort of the cadences and affects of a hip hop guy writing the dialogue, right? So it feels like modern Shakespeare. I feel like Shakespeare would have been so proud to have written this movie.
That's a new angle. I think we're breaking ground.
But I mean, obviously very different from Shakespeare, but I think
says you.
I think you're right about the monologue soliloquy kind of thing. And, that is going, with a rapper involved, then going farther into the traditional mode of tragedy, which I'll just add one more thing to the mix, is that Henenlotter started out, he's a PhD in literature and was an English professor before he started making movies. And so, for instance, Faust is the big reference point in Brain Damage, and I think there are other kinds of references that you might pull throughout. And again, he's not going to put it in your face like some filmmakers will, who have to quote Shakespeare because they're or quote Goethe because they're
afraid you won't find it otherwise.
Yeah, they're afraid. Yeah, that you won't see it. Like Henenlotter works the tragedy into the form, and so, for instance, when one of these characters dies in an unexpected way, somebody that's fairly sympathetic, it's because of the world of it and the morality of the world, and not just because like I'm so cool, I'm going to be dark.
Right.
Which is very much an approach that I think we get in a lot of I don't want to call them exploitation films, but I guess, like, how do I put this? Like, there's a kind of like nerd genre work where it's like on a dare to do the things that you don't normally do, but that's the reason why the bad things happen. Not because it's like internal to what, it's like, no, I'm going to be the badass. I'm going to, I'll out myself here. Like, the first question I asked when I was pitched to direct a Scooby-Doo ripoff was, do I get to kill the dog?
Sure.
Now, that's not the best side of me, but it was my challenge when I directed the film. The challenge I hope that I met was not just I'm doing this to be a badass or doing this to be mean, but I'm doing this to signal that this is a world where I'm not going to protect my horror comedy audience that thinks that they're just seeing hard R Scooby-Doo. And I will say that that's a level where at the time I wasn't going, oh, I'm going to do a Henenlotter style thing, but I was thinking consciously, like, I want to do a Henenlotter kind of movie where its bite is worse than its bark. That we're going to bark in the first act, and the audience is going to think they get one kind of soft thing, and then we're going to bite. And when we bite, they'll know that we're serious about the horror.
I want to see this movie.
Saturday Morning Massacre.
It's
go.
Saturday Morning Massacre.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just.
If you're listening, go look it up.
Yeah, go look it up. It's out there. It's got really terrible reviews on Amazon.
Yeah.
It goes by Saturday Morning Mystery, which
Mystery. Sorry.
Well, that's not my preferred title.
Fair.
And we got the reviews to match where, I talked about a certain amount of wrong footing, but Saturday Morning Mystery really does sound like a children's film.
Yeah.
And people approached it that way and were then really offended.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Which, that's fun in its own way.
Yeah, but children's films too. This is another factor where Henenlotter's a little bit like John Waters. These are fucked up children's films for adults.
Yes.
That's one of the things that's so great about Waters. Who's actually, I think, very, very different in the way that he goes offensive. Like, I think Waters is much more of a social critic, and Henenlotter is much more psychological and internal. But they both are using some of the in horror comedy for Henenlotter or exploitation for both of them. Basically, they're using the form of children's stories in a way to go to really fucked up places. And Bad Biology is kind of like Frank Henenlotter's Very Hungry Caterpillar. So the movie has this like really wild toggling of tone that, as I describe it, I understand precisely why that would not be interesting or entertaining to people. But I also think that so much of our tonal control in movies is too controlled to a point where something like this, especially where I basically trust the humanism of the filmmaker, he really loves these characters, is a kind of thing that becomes interesting. That whipsaw kind of effect within scenes and going from one mood to another, very, very quickly. Catching the differing tones in the characters, is it's something I really admire about Henenlotter. And He probably is not going to be making many more movies, if any at all. At this point, he's definitely getting on in years, and there hasn't been a lot of money for this movie. But if you're a real pervert, I'm not just talking about I'm a big pervert on Twitter. I'm talking about the real perverts out there. Go see Bad Biology. You might enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm all for deep cuts, and I was thrilled to watch something that I hadn't seen. I think as you get to be an older cinephile, like I love hearing oh, you should see this one. It doesn't work, but it's fascinating. Or it does work and it's fascinating. I think I also agree. This is notable. Bad Biology is notable.
They're definitely trying some things.
Yeah, they're trying
making
some
choices.
stuff out, and I'm glad I saw it. So glad I saw it twice.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're glad you saw it twice, because even as I suggested it, right after I sent that initial email suggesting it, there was a part of me going, I think this is the right crowd for it, but
I'm the right crowd. No, absolutely, I love it. I'll watch. I love watching sort of late films also. And there is a little bit of what you see in the sort of late auteur films. They do start getting reflexive about their own work, and you see that a bit in the art critic thing, where you have sort of the art critic sort of saying, really talking about the critiques of like Henenlotter's own work, that it's pornography, all of that. And you have that within the film, that critic, as a way to kind of sort of punch back at that. Asking us to directly engage with what is it okay to do art with vaginas on the face? Are we okay with that, or do we want to say this is not allowed? That we have to define, we have to stay within the boundaries of good taste. And you see that in a lot of older directors' work, starting to talk about a career in his case, exploitation. But yeah, it's worth a look.
Great. I feel like that's Bad Biology.
We were thorough.
Thank you both so much for doing this.
Very fun talking.
Thank you, James.
Thank you both so much for coming in, and thanks to everyone who has listened to all of this. I hope that we have given you some inspiration to check out some Henenlotter, to dive back into exploitation, to give Bad Biology a second look. I swear it's worth a second look, even though the first time you watched it, you were just confused. It's worth it. Also, watch all the basket cases. Also, watch the rest of Frank Henenlotter's movies. There are only 7 of them, not counting his documentaries, which I haven't watched. But I'm sure they're at least fine. He is a smart fella. He makes only good choices. I hope you guys have a good October and a good Halloween, and I hope you watch a lot of horror and exploitation and gnarly stuff, both through this month and through the rest of the year, because what good is a movie where everything's safe? Get out of here.